Now if you follow along with the channel at all, it won't take you long at all to grasp on to the fact that I highly recommend these 360-degree licking branches and these mock scrapes with these vine scrapes, or anything in your area that the deer prefer to use. But I highly recommend getting these implemented on the farms. Often asked, why do you recommend when you leave the farm? Why do you recommend that that's the first improvement that we do? All the things that are out there in the industry, and all the things that we go over on a property, and why is this one of the first things that you mentioned, along with a water hole? Why are these the first things that that we need to do? And the answer is the power. The power in these licking branches. You can see one behind me here. It's they are an inventory stick. The power in these has to be ready for fall. And yes, the mock scrape and everything that comes along with the mock scrape is geared towards fall, and your availability or your production side of it is all geared towards fall. But it all starts in May and June. So anytime during the spring, a lot of times, whether that's later in the summer or even early fall projects that I'm on, you'll find that I get these licking branches activated. Recommend that my clients put them into process as soon as the design's done and they are in the right spots. And it's because the fact of the matter is they are a inventory stick. So you've heard me relate to them in the past as an inventory stick, and that's exactly what they are. The one behind me here, you'll see, if I can get the camera to work with me here, you'll see this has been obviously opened up since last year. About I think we hung this one in August, and when we kind of changed the new set around, we were actually building the new food plot on the house farm here, and so I was able to put this in here on the banks. So we were able to kind of utilize this as a stand location that we hadn't before without the food plot. And the food plots, the start of it's about 80 yards, and we access it over from the top of a ridge, and it's a perfect situation. They complete a stand, especially an archery stand, a bow stand. They are the ticket to have. And as you can see, this one behind me is actually one of these willow whips that they use. This one here is something that I have to correct, that I've learned over the years. I didn't think we were going to have the issue on this because, as you can see, it's hooked to a immature little red oak, and so I didn't think that I would have the issue with it. But it did crush on me one time last year with a snow load, and obviously that time of the year your leaves are off and everything, but for whatever reason it did crush. And so what I recommend doing is I go over this with my clients on these properties. I recommend going from hanging this wire and going from tree to tree and suspending them in the center, or making sure that it's a very solid limb that puts you in that right spot, and hang them right in the middle of the trail. I have a lot of questions of those on I need to be off the beaten path, and as you can see, this one here in the background, I got two trails that come right into this. It's an intersection here, and it's right in the middle of the trail. And this is open all year long, guys. It never shuts down. This is just one of the on my 12 acres here. This is one of the two that I have activated now, and shut one down because we moved to stand location last year after the property was completed as the design was worked on. Huge tool. If you're not using one, you are missing out. And I've been asked this in the past, is there a reason not to have one? I've never set foot on a farm that I haven't recommended one. The only thing that I sometimes do change my recommendations on is if you run a water hole with them, or if they're just by themselves. Now that's a situation where you can't have too many water holes on a property. I designed one last week in Newaygo County, the end of the week before the holiday weekend, and that was high and dry, and it was an 80 acres, and there's absolutely no water on it, and there's no water in the surrounding area, so it's going to be very powerful. But if there's a reason to tie a water hole with them, surely do. But if not, always have, as you can see in this one, stand up behind me here, it's There's no water hole on this one, and it's a powerful tool. Every deer that we had on this farm last year, this piece of property, I would say without a reasonable doubt that I'm pretty sure that 97 to 100% of the deer, especially the bucks that were on this property last year that came through, I had on this licking branch. So very powerful tool, something that I like I said, I get asked all the time, why do I recommend that we do these first? And it's an inventory stick. It's a way to communicate these, get the communication started with these deer. And something that ties into that too is, you can go south with these in a hurry if you take the wrong recommendations. What I never recommend doing is ever place anything on these licking branches as far as synthetic orbital gland, gel, if you will. I tried it, and there's some great products out there. Now, for whatever reason, I've had some great luck with that stuff. Local guy here, a friend of mine, actually has some of the gel. Used it on just some limbs last year. Had some good luck with it, but I had more luck just leaving these true and natural, and using his scent in the scrape below it, not on the licking branch. So actually had one that that we actually did like a kind of a trial and error on last year, if you will, and actually had one shut down, and they stopped using it. And that was one that I had out on public ground, and used that one for that reason, in case it shut down. I wasn't losing some stuff here on my on the private pieces. So take that into consideration. Highly recommend that if you're improving some property, especially now that the summer and after the holiday weekend and some folks are out doing some improvements, I highly recommend taking this advice. And you want them, I'm 6'6", but I put them belt height, so they're about 3 foot off the ground. I catch that all the time. They're too low, and it's not. You don't want just buck to buck communication. It has to be all deer to all deer. So everybody's got to be able to touch it. And when that happens, you then create an inventory stick. And like I said, never put anything on that, and surely don't touch it. When you first put it up and you first suspend it, then yes, you can spray no scent on it, and to try to get the scent elimination process going. But I don't. After that, I never touch anything on it. And like I've said before, the best ones to use, this is kind of one of the ones that we tested. It's more of a slick barked, but I do like to, that's where the vine comes in. I do like to use the ones that are obviously a little heavier rough bark, and it seems to collect, and they're able to rub more of that scent on those, and they work better. I don't use pine. The pine, it's the old theory with them is anything that they rub in the area to use, and I don't go along with that as much as some folks do. And the reason is the pine, obviously a deer loves, buck loves to rub a pine, but the fact is what happens is they get to a point where the pine starts to leak, and when they're leaking, that sap overtakes the smell of the scrape or the licking branch, and it just kind of takes from that natural orbital gland, that the stuff that's being left on there. So highly recommend these scrapes. Make sure that you get them out now, and don't wait too long. The more of the scent that you can collect on these, the better. A lot of ideas and a lot of theories around the industry on these, but I'm here to tell you, wouldn't steer you wrong on these. Started using them years ago, and they are definitely a highly recommended piece of the puzzle. All kinds of different ways that folks hang them, suspend them. Moral of the story is you got to get them up in the tree and in now. I'll show you real quick, kind of go over again how I suspend them. Now this one here, I actually I had cut when we were out here, so I did not have time to drill a hole, but usually I'll drill a hole right in the end of them here and suspend the wire right straight through them, so it kind of makes a loop, if you will, up, and then these just suspend. But this one here is just the wire is looped around it on the end, and it's not nothing fancy there. It just a way to keep them suspended so they move. And obviously, if you're going to touch them up here. But as you can see, it just swings free, and boy, very powerful tool. You can see, I opened that last August, and I've never, raked it out or opened it again, and it's continually just stayed open. And it's just it's a scent station, and by having that licking branch up there, very powerful tool. All the things, the big industry and all the fancy tools that are out there and all the things that you can implement. But when I leave a property, the first thing that I recommend doing, that ties into other things, water holes, stand locations, obviously, hanging stands, all goes with that, this process, this phase, if you will. But this inventory stick right here, this 360-degree licking branch, is the #1 way to start your habitat improvements and to create that point of impact. Like I say, I even use these out in switchgrass fields. Transplant trees, plant oaks next to them, whatever you can do to try to get eventually, long-term have something, solid to tie to. But if you're in an area where, you don't have pines, pine's not going to rot on you or something, I'm transplanting these and, having something to suspend these licking branches off in these, these transition areas that I'm creating, and out in switchgrass areas. And it's very powerful. You got to get them now. You got to get them activated, get them in the trees, and don't wait until you're hanging your tree stand in August or September. Get them hung now and take advantage of all that they have to offer all year long. And these never come down. I've had that question too. Thought maybe I'd touch on that real quick. I never take them down. A lot of guys, well, I thought I was supposed to take them down with my stand, and I never touch them. If your stand's in, over the years you've tweaked it as you went, and it's a stand that is going to be there, it never comes down, stays there. All you do is come back in, hang the stand, or in this situation, here on the house farm, we just loosen the straps and make sure that stand's good to go, and you don't have to take them down, in and out. But this never leaves, and it's probably, to be honest with you, it is the cheapest insurance that you have, and cheapest improvement that you can do, and probably the number one way to slingshot your success here, your upcoming 2020 season into motion. 360-degree licking branches, get them hung, guys. Open them mock scrapes, and have fun this fall with them. If you're not using them, like I said, you're missing out.